The Browns have a bye. The Bengals are versing the Cardinals, and the Steelers are versing another AFC North opponent. That is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I think it's not the same old Ravens, Steelers, Ravens rivalry that we kind of saw back in the 2004s, the 6s, the 8s, the 10s, with Troy and Ed Reed and stuff like that, or Ray Lewis and all those kind of guys, right? It's really different. And I kind of want to go back there for a minute and stick with me. This video is nothing to do with analytics, nothing to do really with who's who in the zoo on the team now. It's more like back in the day. And this refers to all the stuff going on in the land of social media. And yes, I'm on social media. I'm here on YouTube. What's up? Hit the like, hit the sub, do all those subby things, right? If you guys don't like the video, feel free to click it off and whatnot. I'm going to talk about how the game was viewed differently back when I was a kid. When I first started watching football, it was, and I've had this question a few times, how did you become a fan all the way back, in 2000? So I started watching football when I was playing Madden with my brothers in 2000s, or, Madden came out in 1995. Then we had the Sega games like that. And then 2002, I started, looking at a few teams here and there. 2004, Madden came out. I watched all the movies, the replacements, all that kind of stuff. Like, I had genuine love, and I just picked up the game from when I was like 12 or 13 years old or something similar, right? Playing with my brothers, playing Madden. The movies came out. Remember the Titans, the replacements, Little Giants, all those kind of movies. I never worried about who was the offensive coordinator. I never worried about who was the coach. I didn't worry about if they were doing zone schemes, or if they were playing man-to-man, or if they were in the 3-4 or the 4-3. Well, I didn't worry about who was a cornerback number one, or who was the running back number one or running back number two. And there'll be a point near the end. You'll probably start to understand the point as we go along, right? And I hope you guys do stick around. But I never worried about this stuff. All I worried about was obviously trying to learn the game here and there, but trying to understand the rules as the years went on, from 2004 to 5 to 6 to 7. And I really started to love the game in 2008, or when Debo Harrison ran back the 99-yard interception, right? And I understand the Steelers had better teams back then than right now. The Steelers don't have a good team. They just don't. We have very poor offensive line play. The coaching isn't up to scratch right now. We have a Kenny Pickett who's seeing ghosts all of a sudden, and now he's injured. We have a backup quarterback that I don't really trust, or I don't think he can win games, like being Trubisky. With offensive line that can't move the pile forward, and the guys behind him, Najee's trying his best but getting hit behind the line, and Jalen Warren also needs more touches. And on defense, we can't stop a nosebleed. But what I'm saying is, back then when you're watching football, you didn't know this stuff. All you wanted to know about was the guys wearing the jerseys, like James Farrier, or when I first started watching was Amos Iraway, Dan Kreider, all these guys. I even watched Tommy Maddox wearing number 8 before Kenny Pickett wore number 8. And each and every time you woke up, and when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to run out into the living room and get my blanket and hide under it and sit there at 3 a.m. and hopefully it was on Fox. If it wasn't on Fox, because we only got like one station, I was like, cool, let's go. That's my team. I can see Hines Ward. I can see Randall L. I can see all these guys that I'm starting to get to know. And I think we kind of lose that a little bit. I really do. I think social media, YouTube land, if it's me being a creator here, if it's, a lot of guys out there breaking down the film. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to break down the film. I'm just saying it happens. We've got DK Sports, you got Deke and Arthur Motes and all those dudes. Everyone's always talking about it. And then sometimes we just don't enjoy it. I feel like we just don't enjoy football sometimes, right? We are 2-2 right now, and it sucks. But it's also a positive. But it does suck because we're 2-2, and the offense can't get the ball moving. They're not clicking. The 4th and 1 calls are bad. That's on Tomlin, right? That's on the coordinators. The execution on plays doesn't really work. And all these things are happening right now. And yes, things can get better. But at the same time, it's like, oh, man, you just don't have any confidence that they can go and beat teams. But then sometimes you go and see them versus the Ravens or versus the Browns, and they get a victory by showing up. And they go and versus the Texans. The next minute, they play really poor, and it's a 30-6 game. But what I think is from the difference of like when I watched when I was a kid, when I ran out there and I knew the names like Larry Foote or Farrier or Lawrence Timmons as I started to get older, or James Debo Harris on the outside, or when I saw Brett Kiesel, Shear the Beard, those kind of guys, right? And Troy, when I was watching Troy, was amazing. Yes, they were fantastic players. They were fantastic players. But you kind of didn't worry about that stuff. All you worried about was just watching the game from, you didn't have any, for me, being younger, I don't know about you guys, but you know, any information throughout the week. There was no made up drama, storylines, or anything like that. Nothing. All you kind of did was you went to school or you had your job, you did your job. You might have talked with your friends here and there about the Steelers. And then next minute, the game was on. And there was no middle part to create these storylines over and over and over and over about this guy sucks, he's terrible, we need to, is Pickens number one, or he hasn't been performing, we haven't seen him catch the ball, why aren't they using Muth? There was none of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying like, you know what, people love doing that. They love to analyze and get more information about your team. I'm just saying it was a different time for me when I was growing up and watching the game. And that's why I've always had that mindset of like, she'll be right mentality. We're 2-2. If we win this game, we go 3-2, and you can always get better. That's what I always think, no matter what. We're not eliminated from the playoffs yet. I'm not going to cheer them to tank. I'm not going to cheer them to go and get Caleb Williams or whoever that bloke is to be the next quarterback. I'm not going to give up on Kenny Pickett. I'm not giving up on Najee Harris. I still like the way he runs. I think he's one of the best players right now on the team, actually. I think he's trying really hard to run and find holes, and he can't get the speed of the burst because they're putting about 7-8 blokes into the box, and our offensive line can't do anything. I'm just saying, like, back in the day, you kind of just like, there was no noise around the game. The game was just what it was. You turned it on. You didn't see, you had a few things from ESPN, but you didn't see too much from on social media of like, he's terrible. You never saw players, outbursting throughout the week or trying to reroute cryptic tweets, anything like that. All you saw was you switched the game on, and it was a black and gold. It was Steelers versus Ravens in 2004 and 3. Smartphones weren't really around. There was no, I guess, instant gratification of like, okay, I need my fix here and there, or someone's gone live, someone's gone here. We're going to talk about this. What's the biggest problem for the Steelers, right? Because in some aspects too, there always seems to be a problem no matter what. If the Steelers win or lose, if they win by 4 or 5 points, they didn't win by enough. If they lose to a bad team like the Texans, the world's over, right? It doesn't seem to be we're not content or like can't move on and grab from that game. Well, that's a good victory. Move to the next one and see what happens. We're always waiting for something more to grab that and be like, well, we beat the Ravens. If we beat the Ravens by 2 points, 3 points, we should have beat them by 10, 12, 13. I still want Tomlin fired. I still want Canada fired. Even if they have the best game, we still want that instant reaction of like, well, we got this part, but still we didn't do enough, But then back in the day, I never saw that. When I was learning the game when I was a kid, watching them in 2004, around that time that the Madden came out, you run out to your living room, you chucked it on, and you're like, this game's awesome. That was a great game. The other side showed up. Your side wanted to bash heads and tackle, and it was more physical back then as well. And also going back to the 70s, it was way more physical as well back then. But all you wanted to do was watch your team play football. And I feel like we're jumping the gun with a lot of things that, and you have all right to if you want to, but I don't do this. Steel fans are saying that the season's over. This will be the first time that Mike Tomlin has a losing record. It's not over yet. It's not over, right? We still have the Ravens. We have a bye. Then go into the Rams. And then we still have Cincinnati to verse and the Browns twice, like Browns again, right? And we still have about 14 games to go. But I just find it interesting how social media has turned a lot of us into, we want so much content. We want everything now, and we're predicting what's going to happen. When back then, when I was watching the Steelers or games that were Cowboys versus Giants on Thanksgiving, when I used to be in my living room, you got the three games in a row. You just watch to watch, and in between the time of that week, you didn't really hear much. All you heard was a few things about, ESPN. This guy being he's good. He's becoming great, or this quarterback's doing this, or whatever. I didn't really see too many power rankings. All I see on the internet now is power rankings. I see PWF gets in there with their rankings and stuff like that. It's just a lot of not confusion, but just a lot going on. There's so much going on all the time. And I feel like sometimes when I want to watch games, it's just the bar mentality of like, chuck it on, have a beer, and chill out. And if my team wins, fantastic. If they don't win, you're a bit frustrated, you're a bit angry, then you kind of like sit back and go, what do you do? What do you do? There's a few things we can talk about, and this player, that player, we can critique them, or the refs got involved, or the coaching staff should have done this, or they should have promoted a certain guy up. But at the end of the day, what do? I fall back into sit back, chill out, have a beer, and just watch what happens. Because the season's so long now. It's not there's 17 games. We're 2-2, and if the Steelers go 3-2, they hold the North, right? They hold the North. Anyways, guys, that's kind of it. I just wanted to bring that up and say, honest to goodness, sometimes it was easier when I was watching a kid, because I didn't hear all the noise, and you could simply say, "Oh, Mark, just don't go on social media, don't go on Facebook, don't go on Instagram, don't go on Twitter." And maybe I shouldn't, right? But there's also a lot of news on there that I get breaking news. There's a lot of more access to the team. The Pittsburgh Steelers insiders, they break the news, they drop the quotes and the interviews and all that kind of stuff. We've never had this much access, I don't think, in years and years and years. You've got about 10, 20 Pittsburgh Steelers beat writers that don't work for the team. They work for other companies that have credentials to go into the locker room and talk to everyone. And the minute that one player says something like, "Well, I'm not really happy with the offense," we jump on that and we tear that to shreds. But I never really saw that when I was growing up watching the game. All I really saw when I was growing up watching the game was my favorite players like Amos Siraway, Jerome Bettis, the bus, or James Farrier tackling people. And I saw it between the 3 hours in game day. I didn't see anything else because I didn't have a phone. I wasn't on social media. And all I saw was the Steelers playing football. Now, some may argue that the Steelers aren't playing any kinds of football the last few weeks. But I just want to say there's still a long season to go. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that's my little rant I want to talk about, because to me, it was a lot easier watching football when I was learning the game when I was a kid, because I didn't worry about anything else. All I worried about was my team playing the other team, smashing heads, making big tackles, making big plays, catching the football, running down the field, and hopefully winning the game. If they won the game, it was fantastic. But if they lost the game, I was like, man, that sucks. And I kind of dwelled in that for about a day or so and went, Then I moved on to the next game. And that's what we should do. The Steelers are versus Ravens coming up on your Sunday at 1 p.m. If they win this game, the Steelers go 3-2. All right, guys, I'll see you later.